after I returned, the abuse continued, but there was something that I had that I didn't have before. The Savior, in His presence, gave me a promise that He would always be there when I returned, that He would always be by my side, no matter what, and that He would let me know from time to time that He was there. And for the first probably 3 or 4 months after that experience, that love that I felt in His presence stayed with me 24/7 as I was readjusting back into this world. That was my gift. Many endears return with a gift, and sometimes that gift stays with them for up to 3 years. Some claim to be psychic. Some claim, some people, when they, after they return and they try to use a computer or try to use a digital watch or electronic watch, it goes haywire. And and this is pretty common, actually. And so I don't know that I had any gift that lasted 3 years, or but I did have that assurance of feeling His love, constant, for several months, and that was enough to reassure me that He was there. No matter how hard life would get, He would always be there for me. There have been times in my life when perhaps I wasn't living, well, in fact, I know I wasn't living the way I should, and I hadn't felt the Spirit, but the feeling the experience that I had were so powerful that it stayed with me. It's always drawn me back. There was a period of time when I stepped away from my faith. I was angry after going through a divorce, because in my faith, we teach that families are forever, and we're married for time and eternity. And then, not to criticize her, but she had her agency, and I've come to realize, it was really nobody's fault. I was born with a disability that was causing communication issues, and it was very challenging for her. So she had every right to say, I can't go on. And, she was a great mother and everything, and for many years, I loved her and I was faithful to her. But and so when I was separated from my family, this was very hard, and I became angry and I left the church for a couple years. But during that time, I never doubted the experience I had as a child. I never denied it. I just didn't feel worthy of it for that period of time. And after a while, the Spirit said, get your act together. You're not happy. You want those blessings back. And I began reaching for those blessings and working towards those blessings, and going to the Lord in prayer and going to my church leader, and got my life straightened around again. And one of the promises that I share in my book, a very powerful one to me, and it's really blessed my life, was that night before my divorce, I had this really strong feeling, and I heard a voice said, Russell, your life isn't over. There's plan B. There's something for you in Utah. So I moved from Idaho to Utah, and that something for me in Utah ended up being someone who we've now been married for this November 18 years, I think, maybe 19 now. I think it's 18. And she has been the most wonderful support. And it's been hard with this disability until 9 years ago, when I found out for the first time what it was, why I was struggling socially with people, and I couldn't communicate properly. It's been even in this marriage, it was a challenge up until that time, and I was able to get some therapy and overcome much of it. So it's not that it's not still there. It is. I was born with what's called a genesis of the corpus callosum, and the agenesis of the corpus callosum is, when the word agenesis means something is not right, and in my case, the corpus callosum part of my brain is completely missing, and what the purpose of it is, it sits below your left and right hemisphere, which is called your cerebral cortex, and it's supposed to provide a neural pathway from one hemisphere to the other, so you can make quick decisions. I don't have that, but while my brain was still developing, it compensated and created what experts call Probst bundles, which are random connections, not in that place, but different parts of my brain, and it's made up for most of it. And I've always been intelligent, and I've always been able to learn. It's just taken me longer than most people, and so it's hard work. It was hard work overcoming these stumbling blocks. So really, that's part of the reason why I wrote this book. Was there might be people that have that have a similar disability, that have these stumbling blocks. I want to reassure them that they can overcome these disabilities. They can't. They're born with that disability, but it doesn't have to get in their way. They can find ways to go on, and they can find hope. And that hope for me began with trusting in the Savior, His promise.